Hi, I'm BitGeek Rick from the YouTube Dimension, and with me is my co-host Morty.
Well, actually, I'm Ray Stantz of the Ghostbusters.
Oh, what are you supposed to be, some sort of garbage man?
Well, no, we specialize in paranormal investigations and eliminations.
Oh, scientist! Oh, well, tell me this. Have you ever saved the planet by making up your own dance?
Well, no, but we once saved the world from a Sumerian god.
Oh, well, Lottie f***ing da! Well, what do you say we go ahead and get this episode started with our 10 favorite monsters?
Sure, sounds great.
Alright, it's the Halloween episode, baby! This is episode 20. Can you believe we're already up to 20 episodes, Nick?
20, cool. No, I had no idea.
Yeah, and it just also happens to be the our special Halloween episode of BitGeek Podcast. Obviously, I'm not Rick Sanchez. I'm your actual host, Ron Avis, and with me over here is my co-host, my real co-host,
Nick Wright.
But we thought it might be fun to do a little dress up and pretend.
A little cosplay.
A little cosplay. Because you had this awesome, Ghostbusters like thing that you put together, like head to toe, man. You got it all, everything except for the proton pack.
Yeah.
But you've even got a trap.
That's coming. I'm building it. Yeah.
Be sure on the Facebook page that you post some pictures of the trap, dude.
Oh, okay.
Because that thing's amazing. But you got your own equipment, official equipment.
Yeah.
You can actually scan the room for... Yeah, nothing. Oh, hey! There's something. I'm paranormal after all. No, we're not talking about paranormal things for this Halloween episode, but we are going to talk about something that we're both interested in, and that's monsters.
Yeah, monsters. I've always, just different creatures and stuff. I've always loved creatures in movies and whatnot.
Yeah, if you're going to talk movies and fantasy, then you might as well talk monsters. It's one of the really fun genres of movie making that just about anybody can get behind. And I was like, well, we're gonna do a Halloween episode. Should we come up with scary things? And you had told me that nothing really scared you that you can recall.
Yeah, I didn't really watch many scary movies as a kid, and so I just different because. Some of the movies, like A Nightmare on Elm Street, I watched later on, as an adult. I didn't really ever see it as a kid.
It was just more humorous.
Yeah, so it was just more kind of laughing at it than being scared of it.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't really think of too many things that really scared me. That enough to make a list out of.
Right.
But there are a lot of monsters though that I just always thought were really cool.
That there are, and so we came up with our favorite 10. In our one of our go-to formats that we like to do, not ranking these monsters. We're just gonna talk about
my list is definitely not ranked in any manner at all. It's just they're all just things I think are cool.
Oh yeah, and I think are cool too. I was looking at your list, and any one of those could have been candidates for my list. In fact, some of mine are a bit obscure. One in particular, but
and I was wanting to do a few obscure ones, and maybe we'll do some shout outs later on that I might say a couple.
Yeah, we could do some shout outs. I definitely could have some shout outs to, if not monsters, even just some spooky things. Yeah, because unlike you, there were certain things that spooked me. Right off the bat, I think things like Ouija boards. Yeah, I have memories of, people talking about Ouija boards and how, when you're a kid, everything's real.
I mean, there was that one time we had we spent the night at, what was his name, Kevin's house, and he had a Ouija board, I think, and we were kind of messing with it. And I kind of remember being kind of, I guess spooked, would be a good word, that it just... It's the first time I'd ever seen anything like that. And
oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, well, it's an odd thing, too, because it's something you can buy at a toy store.
Yeah.
They when I got one for myself, I picked it right up at Toys R Us. I think there was a movie kind of loosely based on a Ouija board. I don't think they called it a Ouija board, but it was the same thing essentially. You know, like it's a board with letters on it, and you know you put your fingers on it with somebody else, and you could talk to like someone who was dead.
Yeah.
And then obviously, you know, like people are like, you know, who are you? You kind of guided along if it wasn't moving because you want to freak people out, you know. So you're like, I'm not moving it. Are you moving it? No, man, I swear I'm not moving it.
Right.
But just the legend of the thing is scary enough.
Yeah.
But you know, yeah. So like these are monsters, and you know, like, it's safe to say that if nothing else, they're just cool, and you know, like they're scary elements to them. What I shared the Ouija board. Was there anything that you could share, like in particular, that kind of freaked you out? Like I know, like
when you first was talking about doing like scary things, the only thing I could even really think of was just there was a recurring nightmare that I would have when I was a kid that involved I had a Grinch that stole Christmas doll. Like it was like, and it was big. It was like a stuffed animal kind of doll and it had like a reversible face. Like one side of the face was like the mean side, and then you could flip him over, and the other side.
Oh, that's weird.
The other side
was it
is
made
like
of wood or plastic or something?
No, it was just a stuffed. It was just a stuffed animal, you know,
Okay.
like a teddy bear, but it was the Grinch.
Gotcha.
And
I just meant like the face for it to like switch faces.
well, I mean, it didn't like swivel. It was just a front and a back.
Okay.
He didn't have like a back.
Okay.
You know, it was just you just flipped it all over.
I gotcha.
I always twisted his neck though. It wasn't really meant to be like that. You're supposed to just flip it all over, and then it was like that's the good side. I would always twist his whole head around. It wasn't really meant for like that. But anyway, I would have this recurring nightmare where it came alive though, and I really don't remember any details other than it came alive, and I guess like it was chasing me or whatever. Yeah, I don't remember.
Gotcha.
It's just something that I just remember I had a few times, but
I had this one really vivid dream once after I saw one of the movies. One of the characters or monsters in our list inspired it, but I remember waking up in the dream, which is always kind of a weird thing if you're waking up in a dream.
yeah.
So it feels real, very much so, just right off the bat. And I remember I was in my room, and I heard people talking from like the hallway. So I was just like, well, what's going on? And it was just like, I couldn't really make out what they were saying, so I just kind of got up out of bed and walked into the hallway, and we had one of those like cellar kind of staircases you'd pull down and you'd walk up into it. And apparently, like, my brother could see something in there, and like I see something up there moving around. And so I was like trying to look and see if I could see too, and you could hear a noise, but then I saw these like two red eyes open up, and then like obviously freaked me out. And I remember like waking up and be like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
But anyways, but I'm pretty sure it's because I saw a certain movie on this list.
Okay.
But you know, so we're talking mostly monsters and not like paranormal type stuff.
Yeah.
You know, monsters, aliens, that kind of deal. But so, you know, I guess I'll start out, since this is really like my idea.
Okay.
I'll start out with my list. And my first monster is from the movie War of the Worlds, and it's those tripod things.
Those are so cool.
They were really cool, and not the old, you know, version of the movie, but the newer one with Tom Cruise.
Movie.
Yeah, I don't really have too many memories of the old movie version, but I have memories of the new one, and those tripods were really frightening to me.
Yeah.
When you first see it, you know, like the aliens had come down and everyone's like really kind of excited because, you know, wouldn't you be excited if aliens came to our planet, made first contact, you'd be interested. So like people are like kind of coming out and they're like standing around the tripods and they raise up.
Yeah.
They're real big, and then they just start shooting people.
And people are just like poof.
Yeah, they're just like turned into literal dust.
Yeah.
And you know, like Tom Cruise is running and like people are getting zapped. and he's getting the dust on him. And by the time he makes it home, he's just like covered in dust.
Yeah.
Like it looked like soot, like he'd been working in a coal mine or something all day. Yeah. But he had people like in him, you know, so like it's in his head.
And he realizes this too.
Yeah.
And he's like, ah.
Oh, yeah. But those tripods were so cool. And it was just like the sound of them like terrified me.
Yeah.
You know, they're throughout the movie they're trying to get away from the aliens. And nobody knows anything that's going on. They just know that a couple of these things were in in their city. And of course, later on, they find out that they're kind of all over the world. But you know, there's scenes where they find like a house and they kind of hunker down in the house, and one of the tripods like raises up, and like you hear that sound from far away, and you're like, oh God, something bad's gonna happen. And that was the cool thing about the movie too, is you know, there'd be like some really tense scenes, and then things would kind of calm down for a minute or two, and you'd have a couple of quiet like dialogues, and then you'd hear that, and you're like, oh my God, here we go again.
Yeah.
So you know, to get this list started, when I was trying to think of monsters that scared me, and you know, like I know like our list, they may not all be scary. I mean, I guess they are all kind of scary to a degree. Just did they freak you out or not? Or did you just find them cool, or did they really freak you out?
Right.
Well, I'm like a full-grown adult when I saw this, and they freaked me out.
I thought they're cool.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. You're like, oh yeah, I'd like to see more of those tripods. Like, oh boy, we're gonna see more. But you know.
But yeah, I mean, it's very intense scenes though.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's got you on the edge of the seat.
Very much so.
Yeah.
But then at the end, they just like, you know, get sick and die. The end.
But shortly after they first encounter them, and you know, they're at that river, and all of a sudden, just like
the dead bodies start floating by. Yeah, and the little girl is like sees them and freaks out, and like Tom Cruise kind of like grabs her and is like, "Look at me." But you continue to see the bodies like floating by. Super terrifying. And then too, like towards the end of the movie, they find another house to kind of hunker down in, and they end up in that house of that really weird guy, the kind of creepy guy. That, you know, so like then you're not only freaked out by the alien invaders, you're also freaked out by like the worst of humanity. You know, like kind of that, like you're getting it from both ends. Like this guy's like a real creepy guy, and like now they find themselves like hiding from, you know, like which is the bigger monster.
You know, you kind of had mentioned that, you know, the aliens all get sick and die at the end.
Yeah.
And it was the ending was disappointing, because it's like they make it home, and you know, all the family's safe and everybody's safe.
Unbelievably safe.
Like right there.
Their house is not damaged in any way.
There was just like a neat bow on the package, you know, that all the aliens get sick, and then right down the road is Grandma and Grandpa's house.
Yeah, they were just safe in their home.
Yeah, I did. That was
I'll be honest, watching the movie, I was relieved that it was over in a way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay with this happy ending, but then you watch it repeated viewings, and then you start to think about it, and you're like, that's really stupid.
Yeah.
But, you know, in the end, it was the environment.
I mean, overall, I enjoyed the movie, and I mean, it's a classic story, and so, you know, I mean, I knew that this is what ultimately is what happens.
Well, yeah, can we talk
aliens.
about the story too, just a little bit? Like, it originated as a radio
drama, and everybody freaked out.
Everybody thought it was real.
Yeah.
It was so well acted out, and you know, it was it the 50s? I don't know, like whenever like radio dramas were still kind of popular. Maybe it was the 30s or 40s.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the time frame, but yeah, just everybody thought it was a real thing.
Yeah, so you know, it caused a real panic, which is kind of hilarious nowadays. You know, you would debunk that in like 2 seconds on Twitter. But when, you know, your entertainment was the radio, and you know, like in cuts this urgent broadcast.
Yeah, they played it like it was a newscast kind of a thing.
They played it straight.
Happening right now.
They played it straight, so that, you know, that what an experience that must have been for. I'd like to talk to some old timer who like maybe was around when that happened. I don't know if anybody would have survived by then, but anyway, so yeah, the tripods, they're really cool looking. They're terrifying, and it was a fun kickoff to my list.
So not even so much the aliens themselves, but their vehicle.
Yeah, when you actually see the aliens, all you see is the sick one that comes out.
Well, you kind of see a little bit like when they're down in one of those houses. You see them like
They're like
not very
terraforming
much.
the.
No, I'm thinking there was like one of them's like checking out like a bicycle wheel. There was like a bicycle or something.
No, you're thinking of that thing that came down into the basement that was like an eye.
No, that was just an eyeball.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm thinking of the aliens.
Okay, all right.
I'm telling you, there's a scene. It's kind of a fleeting moment.
Okay.
That I think is like the most you see of them, aside from when one just kind of is dead, spilling out of the tripod.
Yeah, they were huge and they were invincible because they had a force field around them. And in fact, that's that one moment when the bird's like sitting on top of one of them that Tom Cruise was like, shoot the rocket launcher, because the bird was sitting on top of it. It wasn't affected by the force field.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the demise of it. And then, like we said, they fall out of the tripod sick. A sad little ending. Almost kind of like in that movie. Did you ever see the movie Signs?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, well, it was like water was like the weakness of the alien invaders. Whatever. They couldn't handle water. So yeah, that's my number one creature. Like you said, it was more like the vehicle of the creature, but I'm counting
okay.
it. Yeah, I'm counting it.
Yeah, that's okay.
Cool. What's your number one, Nick?
Well, I mean, I'm starting out with a bang. I've got the classic xenomorph. From the movie Alien.
Sticking with the alien kind of sci-fi.
I mean, it's always they just so cool. Just terrifying.
They're so. I mean, like the movie's dark and they're just like wet and glistening and they're like all teeth.
And it's always like they'll be like on the ceiling and you don't even know they're there until there's like a little drip drip drip, because of like the saliva or whatever, like it just flows out of their mouth, and you look up and you're dead.
Yeah, the xenomorphs are really cool, and they were probably never scariest as they were in the first Alien movie, which kind of plays out more like a slasher film,
Yeah.
Like they go out on they find the eggs. One of the scientists, obvious, people have seen the movie, and I would almost argue that the face huggers were even more terrifying than the aliens.
And I like all those designs, man. The face hugger,
Geiger designs,
the chest bursters, and just all those creatures. I just like creatures.
The most terrifying thing about the xenomorphs is like their biology is how they grow. Like they actually like deposit an egg in like a living organism, and it grows, and like when it's ready to come out, it just like tears its way through your body.
It kills the host.
Yeah, in the most just brutal way.
Yeah.
So you see that, and it's like a small little like thing, and then it shortly after becomes the classic all black.
And which from movie to movie they can't decide on how fast these things grow to the full size, but whatever.
Yeah, for me, like the whole
because like the first Alien
how long
movie,
does it take to deposit the egg and it burst and like grow to full size? Like it varies wildly depending on the need of the movie, I guess.
Because like the first movie, the face hugger's like on them for like a long time, depositing the egg, and then even like after the face hugger comes off, which then the face hugger just like dies,
it just kind of shrivels up. It's done,
and then it's like like I don't know, half a day, before even symptoms then of the chest burster coming out.
Yeah, that famous scene where they're all sitting around just casually having dinner.
Yeah. and then after the chest burster comes out, then it's still, there's quiet time while it just kind of hides in the shadows until it grows to the full form xenomorph.
Yeah.
But then in like later movies, it's just like 5 minutes.
Well, yeah, in Covenant, like it gets on board and like becomes like adult in like a few seconds, it seems like.
Well, and you can argue that that's a different, breed of alien, but even in other movies where it's like the same, like the Alien versus Predator,
oh man, that's where I first noticed it big time. I mean, Alien 3 was like that too, but the Alien versus Predator was literally they're all separated, they get taken out, they do their thing in the room, and then like the next scene they're getting bursted out.
Yeah, it's just
there's no excuse.
They just have to rush things along.
Yeah, they just had to rush things along because they got aliens and predators to take care of. But I mean, that just made no sense. It's like instantaneous alien. But the xenomorph is a very cool, amazing design.
That inner jaw,
Mm-hmm. That like tail, that with the razor tail, and I mean they're just killing machines. And it's terrifying, like, killing machines.
And you can't really see any eyes, really. It's just a black form.
Yeah, it's almost like a dolphin head or something. Like, dolphins have eyes, you could see them, but it's just so sleek. It's
sometimes crazy. Depending on, I guess, the lighting or whatever, it's kind of a translucent kind of shape, and you can see like the skull, like where there would be eyes, but really you never see eyes though, ever.
I think the least you see, the less you see, the better too.
Oh yeah.
And which was why the first one was so effective, is you never really get a good look at it.
I almost even said that about the aliens for War of the Worlds, that it's almost like those, like one or two scenes where they kind of did show aliens. It's kind of the least the better. They kind of, it was a little too much, really.
Yeah.
That they shouldn't have given it away so much.
Yeah, they shouldn't have given it away. You're always gonna imagine something more terrifying in your head.
Yeah.
And sometimes like you'll get a really cool creature design and it pays off. But like an HD, like I thought what were they called in the new movie? They weren't called xenomorphs, but
yeah, there is a name. Shoot, I can't think of it right now.
It was
Neomorph.
It's full on HD, and you see it like out in the open and clear as day, and it's very cool looking. But it's in that dark setting in space, in that claustrophobic area, and it's kind of like hiding in between things. That's when it's at its best.
And the Neomorph was more white, when the Xenomorph is black.
Full on black, yeah. Cool. A great monster, maybe the king of all the monsters. Pretty scary stuff. So, is that all we got to say about the Xenomorph?
Yeah, I guess so. Moving on.
All right, we'll move on to my number 2. My second pick is a tree.
It's a tree.
It's a tree, but it's not just any tree. It's that damn tree from the Poltergeist movie.
Yeah.
That menaced the little boy from outside the window. Did you watch that clip that I sent you?
I watched the clip, and I feel like the toy clown was scarier than the tree, but
the clown was pretty terrifying.
I get it.
But it was that cat and mouse game that the clown was playing with the boy too that kind of made it scarier.
Yeah.
The tree was implied for a long time. Like who hasn't seen like an old tree like outside somewhere that's got that, it's like rotted, and it's just all bark and it's all like twisted up and scary looking, like something out of Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
Well, try to imagine like trying to sleep with that thing outside your room, and like a dark, stormy night with the lightning and thunder, and it's kind of like tapping at the window.
There have been nights where there's like a shadow like through the blinds or something that there's like you see like a tree branch shadow or something, and it's just like you're just staring at it like, what is that?
Well, imagine like I saw the Poltergeist movie when I was pretty young. And imagine having to like look at that thing knowing that it could possibly, I mean, not really, but, break through the window and grab a hold of you and pull you through the window. Like that's what happens in the Poltergeist movie. Like this little boy's freaked out by the tree, and, like you feel like pretty safe that there's nothing going to happen with this tree. Like ghosts and spirits and like a toy clown, that's one thing. But a tree, and like it comes to life and grabs a hold of the kid and like basically eats him. That's freaking terrifying, and it scared the hell out of me. Yeah. And one of the shout outs that I was going to give was going to be Headless Horseman and Ichabod Crane and the Legend of Sleepy Hollow and all that stuff.
Yeah. Partially
because of that imagery of those trees and stuff. It's like, well, let's get to the root of the fear, and that was that tree from Poltergeist.
Yeah, okay.
So, like that's pretty much it. The Poltergeist movie is a really cool movie. I was kind of surprised to hear you say you had never seen it. Being like a Spielberg movie and all, you think like, well, it's kind of got that mainstream thing going for it.
Just not really one that I never saw it as a kid, and then just not really one that ever came up that, hey, I should probably watch this. I don't know.
Well,
maybe someday.
You know, like this time of year, they have those Halloween movie marathons. If you ever happen to catch yourself, you know, checking out one of those marathons that Poltergeist is scheduled to play, you should check it out, man. It's awesome. They made a remake too, like a couple years ago, and they kind of jazzed up the tree scene a bit too, and but it wasn't the same. And I think it's because like practical effects are just always way more scary, and you could tell it was like heavily CG, but you know, still pretty good. It's not as good as the original. But anyways, that's my number 2, Nick. It's a tree. What's your number 2?
Yeah, more monsters. Puppet monsters. The Skeksis from the Dark Crystal. Love those, man. They're so cool. I mean, and they're the Gartham in that movie. They're so cool. I loved the Chamberlain. You know, he was always like...
That's another movie that an adult like let me go see in the theater, and I wish they hadn't, because that thing really freaked me out too.
Oh man, I love that movie.
Oh, they're really neat. You know, Jim Henson, like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
What, you go from the Muppets to this crazy stuff?
You do have to kind of wonder, but man, I loved it.
He must have been like,
you know, and there were the rumors,
with some LSD or something at that time.
There were the rumors a while back that a sequel was coming out, and I wish there would, but
I think Netflix is doing something with the Dark Crystal. I'm pretty sure, you know, like I've seen images on the internet.
Last I heard, it seems like they're doing a comic book, but I don't know. Time will tell. Yeah,
time will tell. Like, you know, with things being from the 80s and 90s being retro and cool, they'll remake anything nowadays. Yeah. So, you know, why not that? If they do it, though, at any point in time, I hope they really commit to the you know, that style, though, the puppets, and the practical effects.
But you know, talking about things that scared me, there was a scene in Dark Crystal that got me every time. It's when that little fuzzball Fizzgig, the little dog guy, with the first time you meet him and he pops out of that hole. Yeah, I knew it was coming, and that got me every time, man. He was coming out.
You're kind of like hiding behind like the couch, you know, waiting for it to happen.
You know it's coming. Yeah, but he gets you every time.
But those things were really interesting because they were like skeletons. Like, well, they were like vulture people. Yeah, or something. Extremely detailed, well crafted. You know, just in a time when, you know, you still really don't. It kind of reminds me how, you know, you get those Kubo and the Two String style, like stop motion. Yeah. You know, like there's that loving craft. Yeah. You know, like there was a time when you would have like puppets and stuff. Like that was the deal. Like I remember that movie The Labyrinth with David Bowie, and you know, like that was similar. This was way scarier. Yeah. But you know, it was, again, you know, it was like big puppets. You know, like the whole, like there was actors in it. I don't think the Dark Crystal had any like human actors though. It was like all fairy tale, like the the one main characters had human. They were like elves.
Yeah, they were kind of human looking, but they were puppets too.
Cool. That's I avoided that movie for a long time. It freaked me out so bad.
Yeah, I love it. I would watch that anytime I catch it.
How old were you when you first saw it?
I don't know. 8? I don't know.
I'm a wuss. I'm just a big wussy.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Is there anything else we want to talk about with the Dark Crystal?
No. Love it.
It's a cool movie. I can watch it now and not be afraid. All right, so we're all already to number 3 for me. We're gonna get it. This may seem like a silly pick. It was a cool monster. Didn't really freak me out a whole lot, but it always got me, and that's the Dark Overlord from the Howard the Duck. Yeah. Howard the Duck gets a lot of crap from a lot of people. It always has. It's one of the, you know, it's regarded as one of the hugest flops in all of cinema.
You know, maybe if I first saw it as an adult, then I would probably feel that way.
We had those kid goggles on.
But seeing it with the kid goggles, I enjoyed it. You know, I like the monster.
It's a George Lucas movie.
Because that is actually one that popped in my head when I was trying to think of monsters. I'm thinking the monster from Howard the Duck. You know. Yeah. I didn't write it down, but it was one I thought of.
No, it's I think it's a good choice. It was kind of scary though, because Jeffrey Wright is kind of a weird looking guy to start with, but it's seeing that transformation with him, becoming the Dark Overlord, and he's kind of fighting with it, trying to to stay human, but the Dark Overlord just becomes more and more him until you get to that one scene that really sticks out in my mind where they're driving like the 18-wheeler, and he's like getting weak and he needs to charge up again, and he's like that thing comes out of his mouth and
remember.
like sticks itself into the cigarette lighter. Yeah, and he's like gets shocked and recharged. But on the way, like it kind of goes over to Leah Thompson and kind of Icky like gets on her, like kind of we're like doing some nasty stuff, like implying. But that scene sticks out of my head quite a bit.
Yeah, I had forgotten about that till now. But
yep.
Yeah.
But and then of course at the end you get to see him, and it's that kind of neat old school like 80s style. He's a really cool monster. Like he's like a scorpion or something.
Yeah, it seemed like he had kind of a scorpion tail.
Yeah, like a scorpion tail, and he had a real big mouth with all kinds of teeth.
Yeah.
And like a devil like face, or demon face. I don't know, but it was a pretty amazing thing to see it the first time, and to see Howard like pull up on that, golf cart thing with that gigantic laser weapon, It was a cool scene. I've watched that movie several times through the 80s. I haven't seen it in a long time.
I think I've only seen it probably the once.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
It's one of those movies that was on HBO all the time, so I watched it. And it's funny, too, because, like with Marvel, it was a Marvel comic, and he's made cameos as probably the more intended character, in recent Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So I'll be curious if they ever try to fully give Howard the Duck the Marvel treatment.
Oh, I doubt it.
You doubt it? That was just for the geeks.
I think his cameos in Guardians of the Galaxy is probably the most we'll see of Howard.
I don't know,
Who knows? We'll see.
Marvel, they know how to make it rain cash. I never would have thought characters like Drax the Destroyer would interest me, but we'll see. So that's my number 3, Nick. What's your number 3?
My number 3, actually, I watched this last night, actually.
Oh.
But Gremlins. Love that, just more creatures that just caught my eye when I was a kid.
One of the best Christmas movies ever.
Right.
Now, Gremlins is the movie I was referring to earlier with the red eyes.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was all due to that scene where the mom was backing up and Stripe was hiding in the tree. And you see like his red eyes kind of glow. Yeah. That imagery stuck with me as a kid, and I think that's what caused that nightmare. Yeah. But yeah, the Gremlins themselves were too cheeky and silly to really make you scared.
I mean, it's kind of scary, I guess, when you like the first kitchen scene. But the mom, I mean, she kicks butt. She kills like 3 of them just right off the bat.
Yeah, she stabs one.
She would have had them all if Stripe didn't get away.
That damn microwave scene was amazing.
Yeah, like the blender, and then she stabs one with the knife, and then the microwave.
She was, man. She was like the Ripley of like Gremlin. Yeah. So yeah, she was pretty awesome. But yeah, that's an awesome movie.
Yeah.
Not a movie that scared me really at all, except for that one scene. But who wouldn't be a little bit freaked out by that movie, because it starts out so innocently. Billy gets the Mogwai.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want one of those things? I remember, like, for a short while thinking that maybe Mogwais were real.
Yeah.
And that I could have one maybe as a pet. Because they kind of play it off in a certain way. And I want to feel like at some pet stores they might have had some kind of promotion where you could buy a Mogwai, but it wasn't real, obviously. But, he takes it home and you get those rules and you feed it. And none of them were as cute as Gizmo.
When can you start feeding them again, though? Like when the sun comes up?
I don't know, man. The rules aren't really defined. There's a lot of gray area.
After midnight, like when is it okay again? It's got to be sunrise.
It's got to be sunrise. If I were to bet and there was a screenwriter and they made a note of it, it had to be sunrise.
And they can't drink any kind of liquid?
because they'll multiply.
Because the boy even said, "Don't even give it water to drink." Because I caught that when I was watching it last night. That they even specifically say, don't even let it drink water.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess they just don't require water or liquid.
Seems odd.
Yeah, I don't know. They had to close that loophole, I guess.
But that was a scene that I always thought was really cool, though. Like when they, what's his name? That kid, Corey Feldman.
I forget his character's name.
The like the neighbor kid or whatever, like spills the water on Gizmo and it's all like bubbling. And
and Gizmo's like on the floor struggling.
Little fur balls shoot out and they just kind of like grow and unfold into more Mogwai. I always thought that was really cool.
I also like the scene too where they had that like metamorphosis stage where the science teacher had one and they kind of like grew out and he had to like clip.
Yeah, because he was inside the cage and so it just made the cocoon inside the cage and it just kind of was busting out.
Yeah,
so he had to cut it out.
The effects on that movie were fantastic.
Yeah.
And of course, like Billy had like all those other like kind of hatched in his head.
And the end, like when Stripe dies, is really cool because they pull the shades and so he's just kind of like melting away. It's kind of like Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of a thing,
kind of is.
It got the skeleton.
Very much so. But I also like I think of those kind of borderline terrifying parts, but then there's that scene in the bar where they're like all like having a great time.
Yeah, I mean it was so comical.
Yeah, it was very comical. They're just playing poker and like just being shitty with each other.
And the girl is just like serving them.
Yeah, she is. She's trying to give them a light. She's just like spraying crap at them.
She's just trying to keep them happy.
She's just trying to do her job. And then the movie theater scene was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of a movie theater and not look at a screen and then imagine what's going on behind that screen back there. Yeah. I really can't. So the Gremlins were cool. Cool creatures.
Yeah.
The Mogwai and the Gremlins, but the Gremlins especially were really cool. Mm-hmm. And Stripe was really neat. So, but what happened in Gremlins 2, man?
They just got silly.
They really got silly. I'm not bagging on the movie at all because it's fun.
It was fun, but it was completely different.
It didn't feel like the first one at all.
At all. Yeah. It just got silly.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess is it my turn?
Sure.
Number 4. I'm going kind of old school. I'm gonna go Medusa.
Like Clash of the Titans.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've already kind of mentioned the stop motion animation and stuff.
That Ray Harryhausen kind of style.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna factoid.
I'm sorry. You got it. I robbed you of your factoid.
You got it, man.
Here, just say it anyway.
Yeah, and in fact, there's it was a book of all like his work that.
Yeah, King Kong.
For the longest time, I had this book in my Amazon wish list, and I think I finally probably took it down after a while. But yeah, I mean, he's like the grandfather of stop motion animation.
He pioneered it, and he was the best at it.
Yeah,
and it doesn't hold a candle a lot to nowadays like effects, but it's so damn like when it's done like in Medusa in Clash of the Titans, it's effective.
Yeah, and like those skeletons.
Oh, from like Jason and the Argonauts.
Yeah.
In fact, I almost mentioned the Kraken.
Yeah.
Because there's something about like the Kraken, like this beast that lives deep within the ocean. Because like the Earth is like so much of is unknown in the ocean. Like that something like that could live down there and then come up.
Yeah, who knows?
So I almost said the Kraken, but the Medusa scene to me was the best. Turned all the different warriors like into the stone, and then when they finally do cut her head off, they have those great moment, where they like pull her head out of the bag.
Yeah,
and even like the scenes too where that one creature like kind of cuts the bag and like her blood turns into like scorpions.
Yeah,
or whatever. Like that Medusa character got there was a lot of mileage. So but yeah, when she was like slithering around in those columns with that bow and arrow, dude, it was so badass.
Yeah,
I love the Medusa character. Like I really got to give props. And I guess we ought to just there are some characters. We're not quite at shout out territory, but we'll get there. Other creatures in that like the vein of Medusa, the Herringhausen characters. Like we'll mention them.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, Medusa from Clash of the Titans, one of my 5 favorite monsters of all time. Nick, number 4 for you, sir?
Well, probably my favorite monster in the Star Wars series, the Rancor.
Oh, the Rancor, yeah.
That's like the best moment in Return of the Jedi for me. I think.
felt so bad for that little piggy trooper.
Yeah.
Oh man,
He's squealing.
He squealed. He wasn't so tough anymore. Well, yeah. Once again, speaking of that animation, that stop animation, that Rancor monster was friggin' terrifying, dude.
Yeah.
Whenever he would lift Luke up, and Luke had to grab that, that bone that he found. Like, how terrified were you for Luke? Scooting around in that area.
And he shoves like that. He picked up that long bone, shoves it up in his mouth.
Yeah.
He's all like, ah. Then he just kind of like snaps it shut.
Yeah, the Rancor didn't have a whole lot of screen time, but man, was it impactful. And how bad did you feel for its master, too, when it got squished and it was all sad? His poor Rancor.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know much about the mythology of the Rancor? Like, it's a species, I guess.
Yeah, and I want to say they come from Dathomir, maybe? I'd have to look it up. I've read it before. Yeah, and there was that game, Star Wars The Force Unleashed, that you were on, one of the planets you were on had a bunch of Rancors, and you would have to fight them every now and then, and that was always really fun.
Did you by any chance happen to have that Rancor toy?
I used to.
Oh, did you?
I don't.
That was a cool toy, yeah. Was that the only... No, I was going to say, is that the only way you could get that pig guard? But no, those were sold separately, obviously.
I've probably actually... Well, I've got a newer pig. I had sold years ago, like, I think to like one of Ruth's college friends, like, when I was in like high school, I sold like all of my old Star Wars toys. That was probably a dumb move, but
was that around the same time you like purged all your games?
It was probably around the Great Purge.
Everybody has that stage of their life.
Yeah, so all my back. Like original Star Wars toys are gone, and I've got newer ones now from like when the Star Wars toys started to come back. And there's a few that I have. Like I think I've got like the Gamorrean Guard, but I never did get like that new Rancor. There was a newer Rancor that looked more like the movie one.
Ooh, yeah.
That would have been cool, but I mean it's so big,
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
That's a for sure cool monster, and it was scary and really cool looking.
Yeah,
and
loved it.
It would be neat if in like future movies they would somehow be able to bring like that like a J.J. Abrams would handle the Rancor with care.
Yeah,
he would do a good job.
Yeah.
Cool. Other Star Wars monsters that you said that's maybe your favorite. Were there other monsters that kind of remember? Well, I kind of like those big worm things that they were on that like rock that they were hiding from, like in was it the Empire, where the Millennium Falcon like landed inside of it and then it kind of came out like it really was like a sock puppet. Yeah, like a hand puppet. That thing was kind of cool.
Yeah.
There was the
there's what all kind of creatures are
what was
there?
that snow thing that like
the Wampas are cool.
The Wampas, yeah. They're kind of neat. But the Rancor's the best.
Yeah.
The Rancor's definitely the most terrifying. Oh, the Sarlacc pits are kind of freaky.
Yeah, it's cool.
But a lot of that imagery from Jedi
you got two camps of that one though. Whether you think it should just be a hole with teeth, or if you think that adding the beak was okay in the special editions.
None of that crap from the special editions was needed. Some of those editions were okay, but I would just love to have like a nice Blu-ray set of the whole like cut of the film.
Yeah. I mean, I don't hate the special editions, but I do wish you had the choice.
Yeah, give me the choice. I'll buy them both.
And even if it was like two separate discs, whatever, or if it was like on one Blu-ray and you can pick which one you wanted to watch, I mean, that'd be the best thing.
I had heard, when they bought Star Wars, there was hope for a short period of time that they were going to release that. But I guess it was just Lucas was just not going to allow that to happen.
They act like now that the original cuts just don't even exist anymore, and
they exist.
I find it hard to believe. That's like what I hear, but
Well, I think the original Star Wars movies, and like there's like this vault that gets like movies get put into like every now and then, like every year, like a movie gets put into a vault, but they require, if you're going to be in the vault, you have to have an original print of the movie. Like it's just a requirement, and I'm pretty sure Star Wars is one of those movies, so at least Star Wars has got to be in there. I don't know.
Anyway,
Rancor. Okay, now we're up to 5, and now it's shout out time.
Okay.
So what are some of those other Ray Harryhausen creatures that we could mention?
Well, I forget what were they called. They were like those flying things, and I forget which movie it was. It was probably, I think, Jason and the Argonauts. That Harpies. I think they were the Harpies.
Oh
maybe.
yeah.
That there was something about.
I can picture them in my head.
There was like a table laid out like with a feast or something, and these flying little like devil creatures would come out, and anyway, they were cool.
They were cool. Of course, we haven't mentioned Godzilla.
The skeletons were
cool. Skeletons were awesome. They're classic.
With like Spinal from Killer Instinct.
Spinal is exactly what I was. It was on the tip of my tongue. You couldn't help but think of those when you saw Spinal.
But yeah, King Kong. And he would have the dinosaurs with King Kong.
Yeah, the dinosaurs. Right. Well, I mean, Godzilla's not.
Of course, Godzilla is like a guy in a rubber suit.
It's a guy in a rubber suit.
I love Godzilla though.
It's a fun. Great. It's a totally fun monster.
What else? What was it? There was one.
The T-Rex from Jurassic Park.
Wait, when I had mentioned, the T-Rex from Jurassic Park. It's great.
Yeah, part special effects, part Harry Winston animatronic.
Yeah. Winston.
He's a classic creature creator.
But when we were mentioning obscure ones before, there's a couple obscure ones that I kind of want to shout out. Audrey 2.
Oh, from Little Shop.
Little Shop of Horrors.
That is a great one. Yeah, that gigantic plant was so cool.
Yeah, and the Blob of the Blob.
The Blob of the Blob. Yeah, that's a good one. That movie was pretty terrifying. It moves so slow.
Yeah, and it was scary. And all it was just this gelatinous mass. But if it got hold of you, it just like disintegrated you.
Well, I remember the one from the 80s more, not the Steve McQueen one.
Yeah.
And in the 80s one, it was pretty violent and graphic because when it would eat somebody, you could kind of see it, the like remains of the person being ingested.
Yeah.
So, it was terrifying.
Yeah.
So the Blob's a good one. Let's see. You got all your slasher characters, that they're kind of like monsters.
Well, yeah, like your Jason.
Yeah, your Voorhees. I was gonna give a shout out to the Cloverfield monster.
Oh yeah,
that was pretty cool, and I liked that. It's kind of like the Kraken too. I think it's an alien, but it lives under the water and kind of comes out.
Oh, what was shoot, I forget the name of it. That movie.
Predator.
No, well, Predator.
Oh, the Predator was a good one.
But no, it was like they called them they call them prongs or something, like a derogatory name for the aliens. Like the aliens were like these shrimp-looking aliens, and they were like in this like camp, and a guy got infected with them and started turning into one of them.
Oh, District 9?
District 9.
Oh, yeah. And the guy became one, like you said. Oh, it's a recent movie. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know what those
fairly
were called.
Recent, yeah.
Yeah, that was a cool movie, and those creatures were neat.
Yeah, that was pretty neat.
Yeah, that's another one of those, like, any movie where, like, a person's transformed, like Jeff Goldblum from The Fly.
Yeah.
Like, weird Cronenberg kind of effects freaks me out. But those are cool
Yeah,
creatures.
I guess I should. I wasn't really thinking like all like when we grew up or whatever. I'm just thinking of cool monsters.
No, yeah, those were cool. Yeah. Because they were kind of like, it was like derogatory, like you said. Yeah. They were kind of forced to live in the slums, like a ghetto. The graboids from Tremors. Those were cool creatures.
Oh, I've never seen that.
Never seen Tremors?
Critters.
Critters was cool. I liked how they would form one big ball and like they would roll towards somebody and then eat them whole.
Yeah, it was like they would roll over somebody and then there's just like a skeleton left.
Yeah, that's it. It was kind of cheesy, but fun. You never saw Tremors, the movie with the giant worms things, you know, kind of like Beetlejuice.
I can think of like the box. I've seen like the box.
Oh, Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Let's see. I don't know. Is there any shout outs? Creatures. Well, we just really glossed over the Predator, but God, everybody knows about the Predator. It deserves for sure shout outs.
Yeah, Predator's great.
All right. Well, I guess we'll just kind of finish things up. My number 5 is one of those horror icons that we kind of mentioned, but that you saw as an adult. I saw as a kid, freaked me out, and was actually introduced to the character. I'm talking about Freddy Krueger.
Well, I mean, it is a classic design. And
and he's like a creature. I mean, he's a man that's been burned severely.
Yeah.
So he's got those cool scars all over him, and you know he's got that, you know, the claw hand, which is a really cool design. Mm-hmm. And I mean, so he looks like a monster. And you know, the idea of somebody killing you from your sleep in your dreams is pretty scary.
Yeah.
Now, of course, Freddy devolved into kind of a pop culture funny man, where he was almost Arnold Schwarzeneggering puns after every kill.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed those movies quite a bit. But in the first movie, he was straight up scary.
Right.
So, you know, but a cousin of mine, I didn't even know what it was. She basically posited that this was a real person. Like, she didn't really kind of like tell me that it was fake or make believe it, because it sounds like something that could happen in a child's mind, I guess.
Right.
The origin is believable enough. It's a guy who, you know, is molesting children, and the parents find out. They chase him back to a house. They burn the house down. He dies in the fire.
Right.
Of course, then something crazy, spooky, supernatural happens. And he comes back as this thing that, you know, can't be killed, really. I mean, they always find a way to kill him, but, you know.
Right.
She was telling me the entire story in chronological order of the movie, but she was such a good storyteller. Like, it freaked me out. Towards I actually saw the movie. She did tell me, like, I think at one point, like, this is make-believe. Don't run and tell your mom. Like, she'll kill me. But I mean, she was such a good storyteller, and she recalled the whole movie, it seemed like, in detail, like she'd seen it a bunch of times. But, you know, Freddy Krueger is just a creature that I love. I mean, he's a person, but I always just, like, he's more than just a person. There's more to him to me than, like, a Michael Myers or a Jason Voorhees. There's a lot more to him.
Yeah. You
know, he's got there's a lot of layers to that character, which they had to have been, because they did like 10 movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my number 5. Nick, why don't you bring us home with your number 5?
Well, before I do, I thought of one more shout out.
Okay.
Just it popped in my mind. Chucky.
Oh yeah, Child's Play.
Yeah. So,
that's a cool concept. Again, it's like a murderer who is chased down, killed, and then somehow his body is transferred to a doll.
Yeah, I guess like his soul's in the doll body or something. I don't know.
I seem to remember watching like one of the Child's Play movies. Like we had seen it over at my house one night.
Oh,
like maybe the second one or something.
Yeah. Okay.
But you know, that's a good one. I swear, like I'm gonna be kicking myself. I had so many. Like I was narrowing my list down.
Well,
let's bring it home.
My last one, I was thinking of the and it, you know, it's just another one that's just really it's cool, I think. But the terror dogs from Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
You know, the Vince Clortho and Zool.
Yeah.
I think they're cool.
You say that, but that scene where
Dana goes, was scary.
It was really frightening.
Because that scene where like the hands are popping up out of the chair. And,
like they're ripping through the chair and they grab hold of her and the chair turns and goes.
So it was scary, but.
And then, you know, like in the scene too where Rick Moranis is getting chased.
Yeah.
It was pretty scary.
Here,
nice poochie.
Maybe I've got a milk bone.
Okay, who brought the dogs? The juxtaposition of that funny scene being played out, like that was the special thing about Ghostbusters. Is it had scary moments, but there was always like these bits of humor.
Yeah.
And it meshed so well.
The diners in that restaurant, they stop for a second, like when he's just like sliding down the window.
Callousness of New Yorkers.
And then as soon as he disappears, they just start eating again.
Yeah, well, like they've seen that before or something. I know that, and that's a funny scene. But it's scary.
Yeah.
For me, that was the terror dogs are cool creatures, but the whole scene where you in the refrigerator. Where you see
the first
Zool
where she opens up the refrigerator.
Yeah.
Zool.
Yeah, freaked me out, dude. Like that apartment, like I never wanted to live in an apartment. Yeah. Like all those things were happening to her in the apartment. The terror dogs were cool characters, and there really wasn't much to them at all. When they did move, it was like quick little scenes, and or they would be sitting still, just stationary. Of course, everything has to end with Ghostbusters with you.
It does, yeah.
It's one of the best movies ever made. There's no denying that.
Yeah.
If only they were to make a good sequel.
Don't go there.
Oh, we gotta do Ghostbusters. We gotta talk about it sometime, at some point. But anyways, so that's a good one. Number 5, the Terror Dogs.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Well, that's been our Halloween episode. I hope to do another one of these maybe again next year. We could dress as different characters. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And especially too, because I know like you got some really cool costumes, and like maybe.
Well, that was the funny thing when you had said you wanted to do this, and you were asking me like, what was I going to dress up as, and it's like. The question is, what are you going to dress up as? I got things to choose from.
Right.
What are you going to do?
No, yeah, you're like, I'm ready, dude. I mean, you tell me what you're going to do, and then I'll go with that. Well, and like, I couldn't decide. Like, when you were saying, like, you could go as a Ghostbuster, like, Laura was like, oh, you got to be the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I'm like, how am I going to do the show as a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man? I've seen the costumes, but like I'd have to wear this whole like thing. You wouldn't even see my face.
Right, yeah.
It would be completely undoable.
Well, and that's exactly why, because you wanted to do Vader, and I'm like, I can't do a show as Vader.
I know. Yeah, you've got the sweetest Vader costume, but I swear to God, we are going to utilize that costume in some way at some point. We have to.
Your eyebrow.
Oh no, is it coming off? Oh no. Good thing we're at the end of the show. I'm expressing myself. Anyway, but yeah, so I landed on Rick from Rick and Morty. So I love that show. It's a great show.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and you pull it off pretty well.
Except for this eyebrow, it's kind of cockeyed.
When you mentioned it before, I was like, I wonder how that's gonna look like. But yeah, it's good.
It's cool. Thanks, man. Plus, I can pretend to be Rick. He's a really funny guy.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for playing along, Nick. All right. Well, that's been our 20th episode, the Halloween edition of the BitGeek Podcast. I've been your host, Ron Avis.
And I'm Nick Wright.
We'll see you next week.